Joanne, what should a buyer consider when looking at the age of a property here in Massachusetts?
Such a good question, a loaded one at
Yeah,
that. Thank you for joining us. This is another edition of Coffee with Tom and Joanne, and I am Joanne Taranto.
and I'm Tom Matthews. And we bring this topic to you because we live in an area where we have some of the oldest housing stock in the country. Massachusetts was one of the first colonies that were set forth in the 1600s, and we still have houses from the 1600s. And because of the zoning bylaws that are put in place, we have older housing stock. We don't have as much new construction. So, Joe, one of the things, what's be something that someone might consider on like a 90 house? Not that old, but
different eras offer different things in construction trends. And if you're looking at a 90s house and it's 2024 right now, your house is, about 30 years old or more.
Right.
And so when you get to 30 years old, you need to start making capital improvements into the infrastructure of your house. So you're looking at a roof, you're looking at heating and air conditioning systems, you're looking at maybe doing some wood rot on the outside of the house. There are a lot of things that can happen in 30 years. But one of the nice things about looking at 90s construction is that we start to see, the use of some long-term materials like PVC plumbing, for example, is, that's kind of forever plumbing, and you don't have the copper pipes that would be found in an older home. So looking at a 90s home, I think the most important thing is to look at what has been done already for capital infrastructure improvements. Right. And then secondarily consider the cosmetic stuff.
Yeah, that's, I think, where a great buyer agent comes into play, because they'll kind of make sure that you're paying attention to that. Because one of the things I love about the 90s homes is that they're sited really well in the lots. They have great drainage typically. They have, French drains. They have all this stuff that the older homes don't have. But because they're 35 years old, people say, oh, that's a pretty modern home, which they are. But because of the life cycle of most of the materials, it's really critical to pay attention to those things. Because I can't tell you how often people will walk into a 90s home that we're selling that they have a modern kitchen, modern bathroom, and they're like, oh my gosh, this looks amazing. And they don't even notice anything else.
And then they find out that the roof is 30 years old, and you're looking at probably a 3-tab shingle on a 90s house. So you're overdue for doing a roof. And we all like to do the glamorous, kind of more sexy stuff in our houses, like designing kitchens and bathrooms and master bedrooms and the finishes on the inside. The unsexy stuff, unfortunately, needs to get done too. And that's around painting the outside of the house, roof replacement, heating and air conditioning replacement, electrical upgrades. Because, if you have an EV, your house wasn't built with an EV in it in the 90s. And unless that owner has one, you may be looking at putting that in as well.
Yeah, my wife always jokes. She goes, Tom, people aren't going to come over here and say, oh, look at all the trees you've taken down. Or look at, look at the new AC unit you have. But those are really important functional items that you need to do. And you have to be careful of. But I will conversely say to people that even though you're buying new construction, the quality may not be as nice as the older homes, because there was so much care taken in building those older homes. So we say, don't judge a home in this area by its age.
Definitely can't do that.
Judge it by the care that each owner has taken, because some owners are fastidious. They will pick a big project every year and update a house every year. And it's important about who has lived in the house and what they've done to it.
Right. And so the same thing goes for if you're looking at a home and it needs a new kitchen, right? So let's say the house is built in 1997. It's like the kitchen is outdated. You want to get a new kitchen. There are things you can do to a 1997 house that you can't do to a 1950s house.
Right.
And when you're looking at a house that was built in 1950, and it needs a new kitchen, you need to know that that kitchen renovation is going to be a down to the studs project, because you're going to need to update the electrical and the plumbing and bring that all up to code in order to update the kitchen.
Right.
Versus much less of a project to change a kitchen in a 90s house, because you don't have to go all the way down to the studs.
Right, exactly. You can do more of a facelift, and sometimes those 90s homes, a lot of them were built with the oak cabinets
Mhm.
here in Massachusetts. And those can take a stain really well. So you can stain them and then paint them white to make that white kitchen,
Mhm.
replace the hardware. So now you have brand new, and they're typically in 30 years, they don't get beat up that bad.
Mhm.
Now you have those brand new cabinet look that you wanted, plus then you just swap out the appliances and put in some new countertops. And now you have that renovated kitchen, whereas if you're buying a 50s house, they may have been using old material that even if you were to paint them, they don't look fresh and new.
Mhm.
And so you really, like Joanne said, have to go back and gut it. And that's a big consideration.
Yeah, and then so as far and antique homes,
Yeah.
gosh, I love antique
Yes.
homes. They're my favorite. And you know, antique homes, I think you have to have your eyes really open
Right.
for some key things to be looking for. You want to be looking out for things like knob and tube wiring and asbestos. And, you know, a lot of times those are gone. We used to 20 years ago when Tom and I first started selling real estate, occasionally we would come across those big furnaces in the
Yeah.
basement that were covered in asbestos.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even remember the last time I saw one of those because I think they've kind of like all lived out their life by
Yeah.
this point. But there are key things to think about when you're looking at an antique home, and these are important to consider because they will impact how you can update the house down the road. But working with an agent like us that understands what each era of housing will bring you is going to help you to understand what's the best fit for you and what will make sense for you down the road as well.
Awesome. Great. This has been a great topic, Joanne. And I want to thank everyone for watching another edition of Coffee with Tom and Joanne. I'm Tom Matthews.
And I'm Joanne Taranto. If you like this video, like and subscribe.
Cheers.
Cheers.